Good evening, guys. How's everybody doing? We got a lot going on tonight. I did schedule this impromptu live because there's some things I wanted to talk about. Shout out to Lone Pony, the main case or story we're gonna be talking about. She is the one that brought this to my attention. She sent me an email last night with a link to a video and a little description about this case, and asked me if I'd heard about it. She thought it was something I might be interested in, and I watched the video link that she shared, and I was blown away because I had not heard about this developing story. And I watched the news. I watched, at least an hour, 30 minutes to an hour of local news, and then 30 minutes of national news. Just about every evening. And I had not heard about this case, so it just blew me away. So a big shout out and a huge thank you to Lone Pony for bringing this case to my attention. And before we get into that, we're also going to, and if you're new here, welcome to Southern Gal True Crime. I cover missing persons, cold cases, true crime in the news, like we're going to talk about tonight, and more. So if those are things that you're interested in, please consider subscribing, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Y'all know the drill. I share mostly lesser known cases that don't get all the national attention, and to bring awareness so that these victims are never forgotten. But like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about just touching briefly on developments in the Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra case. There was a third arrest made today. And then we're going to be talking about this case from Jackson, Mississippi that just blew my mind when like I said, Lone Pony brought it to my attention, and it just blew me away. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. You can just go to Facebook and search Southern Gal True Crime, and they both should pop up. I post things on there that I don't put on YouTube, so it's worth checking out. So definitely give it a look when you get a chance. We'll see who's here. Junior Johnson's here from Michigan. Hey, Junior, how you doing? Y'all getting snow up there? I know there's a big weather system affecting the whole United States. We're supposed to be getting storms here. I'm in Arkansas, so we're supposed to be getting storms here tomorrow, and then maybe snow the next day. So it's just going to be craziness as usual. Hello, Michelle C. Good to see you here. It's good to see everybody here. Thank you to everyone who's here, who will come in, anybody who will watch the replay. All the support is very much appreciated for a small channel like mine. It really helps. Supposedly the YouTube algorithm, the more subscriptions, likes, shares, comments, pushes it out to more people, and that's the whole goal, is to get awareness of these cases that I usually share, these lesser known cases, out to as many people as possible. So let me grab a drink right quick. We'll see if some more people come in. And I just wanted to show right quick my new disclaimer. It says, me talking to my imaginary audience who is watching my live, what you're about to watch is a nightmare. And it's not referring to anything the cases are going to be talking about, just my live in general. Because any of you who have ever been to any of my lives know that at least 1 or 3 or 5 catastrophes happen. I've gone into the upside down or the matrix or whatever you want to call it. I've knocked my camera over numerous times. So I always experience some kind of technical difficulties, but hopefully we'll make it through this one without any dumpster fires or a hot mess going on. So I just wanted to show you that my little disclaimer there. Junior says it's going to be super cold, high of 6 degrees. Oh, See, that's why I don't live up north. That's why I've stayed down south. Uh, we have our what we call cold spells. Every once in a while, we'll get snow, but most of the time, if we get any winter precipitation, it's ice. Which is I do not drive on ice. I can drive on snow as long as it's not a whole lot of snow. But the one or two times I've driven on ice, one time I ended up in the ditch, and I said, "Okay, that's it. I'm not going to drive on ice anymore." But anyway, we will get into first. I always feature. Let me get my slides back up here. Oh, come on. Nothing's wanting to work for me as usual. Yeah, just once again, there's my disclaimer. Hopefully it won't be a dumpster fire. I always feature a missing person at the beginning of all my lives or videos. And I have this is from the Morgan Dick Foundation Facebook page, and it is Aaron Stone. And Aaron is missing, went missing from Dale City, Oklahoma on December 30th of 2023. He is 27 years old, white male, 5'6", 125 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. And it says that he has the word loyalty tattooed on the left side of his neck. So that will be a very distinguishable, distinct, something to look out for. So if you're in the Oklahoma area or anywhere close, you can contact and have any information on Aaron's disappearance or possible whereabouts. You can contact the Dale City, Oklahoma Police Department at 405-677-2443. All right, so that is our featured missing person. And I will put a link after the stream is over in the comments, and then when the stream uploads to the YouTube site, it usually takes around 12 to 24 hours before it will let me go in and edit anything. And I will also put the link to the original post of the Facebook page in the description box. All right, so first we're going to touch on, if you're here, I'm sure you've heard about the Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra case from Texas. If you haven't, you can just Google it or go on YouTube and search it. There are a million videos out there that can give you all the information. Two arrests were made, the father and son, Christopher and Ramon Preciado, and today a third arrest was made. Apparently it was it's a little confusing. It's either the wife, common law wife, or girlfriend of Ramon Preciado, the father that was arrested. And it says there's also confusion about whether it's been said that she is Christopher, which is the son, Preciado's stepmother, and then some say it's his mother, so it's kind of confusing about right now. But at any rate, she was arrested today. And I have a couple of articles to read to you a little bit of information about that. The first one comes from ABC News, and it says, third arrest made in connection with deaths of pregnant Texas teen Savannah Soto and boyfriend which is Matthew Guerra. And it says police have arrested a third suspect in connection with the fatal shootings of pregnant teenager Savannah Soto and her boyfriend in Texas. San Antonio police announced Wednesday that they arrested the stepmother of 19-year-old Christopher Preciado, who faces capital M charge in the deaths of Soto and 22-year-old Matthew Guerra, whose bodies were found in a car at an apartment complex parking lot on December 26. Now, her name is Mirta Romanos. She is 47. She is accused of helping get rid of the evidence concerning this crime. According to Lieutenant Michelle Ramos, said Wednesday while announcing her arrest. She is being charged with tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, and altering, destroying, or concealing evidence of a human corpse. Let me get down to the Says this latest arrest comes 1 week after Christopher Preciado and his father Ramon were taken into custody in connection with the case. Both Christopher and Ramon were charged with abuse of a corpse and altering, destroying, or concealing evidence of a human corpse. Surveillance, and this is interesting because apparently they went in and enhanced this surveillance footage. And now they are sure that because there was always the debate and the 99.9% certainty from people out in the general public that there was a second person in the truck besides Ramon, because we saw the towel being thrown that he picked up. And apparently this Mirta Romanos was the one in the truck. They finally found enough evidence, they said, to arrest her today. It says surveillance footage shows Romanos also leaving their home in the black truck the night of the crimes and then returning with Christopher and Ramon in the truck. San Antonio Police Chief William McManus told reporters last week that police recovered a firearm from their home that is believed to be the weapon that was used in the crime. And Romanos allegedly said that the firearm belonged to her. So that's interesting. San Antonio Sergeant Washington Moscaso previously told reporters it appeared to have been a possible narcotics deal gone bad. The father was not there for the crimes, but was called afterwards. And both victims were found, of course, with GSWs and what police called a very perplexing case. All right, let's get down to the, just recaps what we've already know. So this was interesting. Ramos, which was one of the law enforcement that gave the briefing after Mirta was arrested today, said that they were aware early on in this investigation of a third person being involved, but at that time they did not have enough evidence to make an arrest until now. It also says no additional suspects are being sought in the case. Christopher and Ramon are in jail awaiting indictment, and court records show they are scheduled to appear in court on February 5th and February 6th, respectively. So it won't be too long, about a month, and they will make their first appearances in court. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez told reporters last week that they have 90 days to indict the cases, and it is, quote, too early to tell whether his office will pursue the DP. And I think they still haven't made the decision or the charge, and hopefully it will be forthcoming, for the taking of the life of baby Fabian. But the general consensus is that that charge will also be added to at least Christopher, because from everything we've heard and read in the news, Christopher is apparently the one that actually committed the crimes, and Ramon and Mirta, the stepmother or mother or whoever it is, however she's connected, related, help cover it up, because they have only been charged with the abuse of corpse, which is just moving, and then the tampering with evidence. And I think her charge of tampering with evidence concerns the gun. But you can go, excuse me, earlier, Chris from the mob crew did a live with the update. He had all the latest information, so I encourage you to go, if you've never checked him out, go check him, that live out, and it has all the information. All right, let me quickly go out, see what we got going on. There's Long Pony. I don't know if you heard me, if you were here earlier. Big shout out. I gave a big shout out to you and a huge thank you for bringing my attention to this Jackson, Mississippi case that we are going to be talking about. Um, as I said, you sent me an email last night and with the video link and asked me if I'd heard about it, and I had not. And I watched the video, the link you sent, and I was just mind blown. And so, of course, I put down what I was doing and I got on the phone and started Googling, and I found a few articles, um, but it just gave the same information over and over, although it is horrifying information. So I'm like, well, my other go-to for information is YouTube. So I figured, I searched on YouTube. I figured a million videos about this would come up. And surprisingly, I think only 3 videos concerning this Jackson, Mississippi case came up. And I was just, what is going on? I mean, and one of the videos was the link, the video that Lone Pony had sent me in her email. And then the other one, I wish I remembered. I'll have to find it again and I'll link it in the description box. Um, it was a YouTube channel. It was Undisputed something. If anybody in there knows, they did a good, it was 2 ladies, a black lady and another lady, good information about it. And then the other one was just a CNN video, and they weren't actually talking about the 215 bodies that have been discovered. But apparently at the beginning of this, what kind of brought all the 215 bodies to brought all this up was, and I forget, I know it's probably in one of the articles that I'm going to read. Apparently, like I said, I don't know, a year or so ago, or maybe not even that long, the NBC News kind of accidentally reported or gave names that I think in Jackson or the county that it's in, 20 they had 20 homicide victims that they just buried out in what they call this Paupers graveyard. And when you see this, I've heard of Paupers graveyards, and for anybody who out there who doesn't know, I can give an explanation. This, what I've seen, is not a Paupers graveyard. It's, to me, I would liken it to a serial offenders like dumping ground or a landfill. It's just horrible. But anyway, NBC News had reported about 20 homicide victims who had been just put in this Paupers graveyard, as they called it, and they listed names of these 20 homicide victims, and that's how some of the family members of these victims, and I'm going to go over the stories of 3 of the people who were buried in this makeshift graveyard. That's how their family members found out that they were deceased. They just thought they were missing, and it's just so it's so horrible. But so if you guys, any of you that's in chat, if you've heard of this besides Lone Pony, of course she's the one to let me know about it. But if you have any other information, Lone Pony, feel free to share it in chat. It's just horrible. It is just horrible, horrible, and I just could not believe what I was reading and seeing when I was researching it late into the night last night. Yeah, Lone Pony, you going back to the Soto Guerrero case that she says, hard to believe they didn't get rid of their own camera footage. Yeah. Like I said, you don't catch the smart ones, unfortunately. It's lucky that you don't. Let's see, what else is going on? Oh, it's okay. I was almost, I'm usually late to my own lives too. Lone Pony says I'm late per usual. Yes, it's awful and not being covered much. So sad. Yes, definitely sad. It blows my mind. And I'm so glad I checked my email, because sometimes I'll go 2-3 days without checking my email because I don't, I don't get anything important in my email, spam mostly. But last night. I think I actually picked up my phone to get on the internet browser and look at something, and I accidentally, because my internet and my email icons are right beside each other. I think I accidentally hit email, and I saw that you sent the email, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Holy shnikes, what's going on?" So, but yeah, thanks for sending me that link. Junior says I saw something about it, but didn't check it out. Yeah, and when I was talking to when after I read, me and my mom were sitting in here watching TV. I think we were watching an old episode of Live PD or On Patrol Live or whatever it's called now. When I saw the email, and my mom said, "Yeah," I said, "I saw something on Facebook about it." So, but I just thought it was maybe clickbait or something, you know. But so I got to research. Like I said, after I read your email, I got to looking at it, and I was like, "Nope, it's true apparently." Okay, Lampone says, "My daughter told me about it. She's in with advocacy group in law school in DC. They're looking into it. That's all I really know." Yeah, and apparently, Benjamin Crump has gotten in on it, and Arthur, another advocate, Arthur, I can't remember his last name. His name is in here in one of the articles, because I got a couple of articles I'm going to read from with the information. Yeah, it's I just don't know how this has not gotten more attention from national news or any local news, national news. And I occasionally will roll over, click over to CNN if see if anything, so any major disasters have gone on. And I've never heard or seen anything really from CNN about it, except for that one video clip I found on YouTube just talking about the 20 homicide victims, but nothing about the 215. It's just crazy. And there are a lot of opinions out there about why this case is not getting attention. I think, and we'll go into it, and feel free to give your opinions, but just always be nice and play fair, respect everybody's opinions, be respectful of the victims and the victims' families and all that. And but we have a pretty good little community here, so I don't think we'll have any problems, because I don't have any mods. I mean, I only have 4 people in here right now, so I don't think we have anything to worry about. But anyway, before I keep babbling on, all right, okay, I think I had maybe one more short article that gave a little bit more information about this Soto case and this arrest. If I can find the one I'm looking for. And then we'll get into the Jackson, Mississippi case, because that is what we're here tonight to talk about. And if you've never heard it, I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked, horrified. Okay, so this is from KENS 5, new local news station or news website, I'm assuming. San Antonio police say they've made a 3rd arrest in the homicides of Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra. Mirta Romanos, 47, is facing 3 charges in the case, including altering, destroying a corpse, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. She is believed to be the stepmother of 19-year-old Christopher Preciado, who is already facing capital M charges in this case. Of course, Christopher's father, Ramon, is also facing 2 charges relating to attempts to hide the body, which is, they're calling it abuse of a corpse. On Wednesday, police said video surveillance showed Romanos, who is the stepmother, at her home right after the crimes, leaving. She then left in the black truck and eventually returned home with the 2 other suspects, Christopher and Ramon. Police say she was also involved in getting rid of evidence. So from what I've heard or read, it has something to do with the gun, because apparently it was her gun that was, or firearm. I don't know if I can use gun on here. Firearm that was used. And then everybody's been asking about the towel because at the press briefing they gave after her perp walk, one of the reporters asked, what about the towel? And the officer that was given the briefing said she didn't have any information about the towel. So it'd be very interesting to know if they have the towel, if that's part of the evidence they have, or if this tampering with evidence may have had something to do with the towel too. Let's see, where was that? Trying to get to, once again, it's just recapping what we already know. There was something else in here I wanted to read. An arrest affidavit stated that Christopher admitted to police that he was meeting Savannah and Matthew for a substance deal, marijuana. Christopher claimed that Matthew pointed a gun. We know all that, his side of the story. Another arrest report says that Ramon arrived to meet his son at the apartment complex in the Chevy Silverado truck and attempted to help hide the bodies. 1 week later, police said that Romanos, which is this stepmother and the wife, common law wife, girlfriend of Ramon, said that Romanos was also in the truck with Preciado. Surveillance video showed all three suspects arrived back home to their house after the crimes. And police also said a firearm believed to be used in the crimes belonged to Romanos. Homicide detectives were looking for enough probable cause to make that arrest. San Antonio PD Lieutenant Michelle Ramos said, "At this time, we are confident that there are no more suspects." So that kind of gives us because everybody always said, especially with the towel moving, that there was somebody else in that truck. And if you weren't here before, I lost my train of thought once again. That they said they knew, one of the law enforcement stated that they knew from the beginning that there was a third person involved, but they had to develop enough probable evidence and probable cause to make the arrest. And today, or in the last couple of days, they had enough, fortunately, did gather enough evidence and probable cause to arrest this third person, Myrta Romanos, or Romanos, however you pronounce it. I agree, Lone Pony. Lone Pony says, I hope that towel is in protective custody. Exactly. That towel, I'm telling you, that towel has been the main conversation piece of ever since that surveillance footage came out. So I think it's going to have hopefully they do have it. Hopefully it wasn't destroyed. But they do have, at least they do have the firearm that was used, because apparently they did the ballistics and matched it to the shell casing that was found, and it matched. And Myrta has freely admitted that it was her gun. Junior says, I'm back. Every time I try watching something or someone calls or comes by. I understand. Yeah, I had to kick everybody out of my room, and the cat included, so I could do this live right quick. But anyway. All right. So that is the latest on the Savannah Soto Matthew Garrett case. So now we will get to, oh goodness, this Jackson, Mississippi case. Show of hands of anybody. There's 6 people in here who, well, aside from Lone Pony, said, of course, she knows about it. I think Junior said he's heard about it. Anybody else in here right now, have you heard about this developing story? And I'm trying to see which yes, Junior, that's been mentioned. Junior says the kid will take the hit from mom and dad, you would think. Yeah, that's what when I was watching Chris from the Mom Cruise Live before, that's what in chat, that's what a lot of people were saying, that Christopher was gonna take the fall. But hey, it all comes down to, it was apparently a family affair, and if all this, once again, they're all three innocent until and unless proven guilty. But it's just, yeah, apparently all three of them had, now when it comes down to the trial and they figure out who did what, from what, just from the information that's come out already, all three of them were involved in some way or another. So all three of them, if they allegedly had something, all of them has something to do with it, allegedly. So if they do, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully there will be justice will be served for Savannah, Matthew, and little baby Fabian. Michelle C says she's never heard of the Jackson case. Oh, Michelle, buckle your seatbelt, honey. It's a wild one. It's a horrifying, sad, and once again, shout out to Lone Pony for bringing it to my attention. Okay, so 215 bodies have been found in Jackson, Mississippi, what they are calling a Paupers graveyard. And this Paupers graveyard, and it was and this first article I'm going to read comes from Fox 26 Houston, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So you see on the left is what they're calling the Paupers graveyard. But if any of you have not heard of a Paupers graveyard, they are common. They are used for victims, either homicide victims or anybody who died of natural causes, who either do not have any next of kin, or police made every effort they could to find a next of kin, could not find it, and nobody claimed the body. Or they are a Jane Doe or a John Doe, nobody's claimed the body, or they've never been identified. They are buried in what is called a pauper's graveyard, and it's just for basically for unclaimed people who have passed away. They're not fancy, but at least a true proper pauper's graveyard, they are treated just like any other. They're embalmed properly. They're buried in a coffin or a casket. They may not, have a big fancy gravestone, but at least they have at least like the middle, a marker. And sometimes I think some of them do have like a little, like maybe a brick sized concrete or cement with, if they're identified, they have their name and maybe when they were born, or if they know when deceased. And then a lot of them have a metal plaque that has their name if it is known, and birth date and deceased date if it is known. This, what they're calling here in Jackson, Mississippi, they're calling it a pauper's graveyard. In my opinion, it is not. So before I go any further, let me just give you the basic information. So, and this article is from January the 8th, which was 2 days ago, today the 10th. It says 215 bodies found in Jackson, Mississippi. An alarming, to say the least, situation has unfolded in Jackson, Mississippi, where 215 bodies were discovered buried in unmarked graves behind a state jail. And this happened in, I think it's Hinds County in Mississippi. And but I believe it's in or around the Jackson, Mississippi area. And it was handled, from what I understand, by the Jackson Police Department. Um, and families of the deceased were left in the dark until last month. Some grave sites were only identified by a number and a metal rod. And if you can see in the picture, you can see the rods sticking up. Those are the metal rods, and all they have is like a little placard that just has a number on it. No names, nothing. Um, Raising concerns about the lack of transparency and respect in handling the deceased. The families of the deceased attorneys are calling for a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding these unmarked graves. Yeah, Junior said they must be old. The three stories that I'm going, or the three um, people that have been identified, three of the people that have been identified that have been pulled out of this Paupers graveyard are recent. Just like Lamponi says, some are pretty recent. But with 215, but then again, I go back to, I mentioned the story that NBC News broke that 20 in 1 year, 20 homicide victims were put in here in 1 year, 20. So it's who know, and if there's 215 that they know of, who knows? There could be some older ones in there, but then again, there could be more recent ones. All right. The revelation began with Dexter Wade, and he's one of the ones, the main one we're going to look at. With Dexter Wade's death in March of 2023, in which a police officer fatally hit him. Shockingly, his family was not informed of his death, and he was buried without their knowledge, even though he was identified. Activist Arthur Reed, working alongside attorney Ben Crump, sheds light on the distressing details. Dexter Wade's case took a disturbing turn when it was revealed that he had identification on him. Now, I've read varying accounts. One account, according to an investigator from the coroner's office, said that he claimed, or he said that he did not find like a driver's license or a state ID, but he did find a bottle of prescription medication that had Dexter Wade's name on it. And that's how he was identified. But then I've heard that they did exhume, after all this started coming out, they did exhume Dexter's body. A second autopsy was done by Frank Peretti, and if I'm remembering correctly, I'm 99.9 sure that Frank Peretti, he's a medical examiner. I'm pretty sure I can't remember if he testified for the prosecution or the defense in the West Memphis 3 case. But he claims that after Dexter's body was exhumed, that he found an actual ID, driver's license in the pants pocket. But like I said, I couldn't find anything to confirm it. I think I only found that in one article. But at any rate, it would not, and we'll get into Dexter's case, it would not have been hard to identify him because he did have a criminal history. He had served 2 prison terms, so he was definitely in the system. All they would have to do, and maybe they did, or at least this investigator from the coroner's office said that he could very easily be looked up in the system. Just put his name in the system because he did have a criminal past, and he did serve 2 terms in prison for, I think one was for auto theft and one was for robbery. So it's not like they didn't know who this guy was, who Dexter was. But we'll get into his story. It's of all of the three stories that I came across of 3 of the people, his is the most disturbing. All right. I lost my place once again because I got to babbling. Wade's case took a disturbing turn when it was revealed that he did have identification on him. This identification was given to the lead detective by the medical examiner. However, the detective claimed, oh goodness, hold on, I accidentally hit the wrong button. The detective claimed to have called Dexter's mother without receiving an answer and took no further action. So the claim is that he called one time, called the family, called Dexter's mother, didn't receive a call back, and so they just put him out here in this Paupers graveyard. Reed says the situation in Mississippi is deeply troubling. It says with 6 additional bodies now discovered in similar unmarked graves. Reed describes the grim scene at the burial site where buzzards flew overhead. The bodies were placed in shallow graves without embalming, leading to, trigger warning, I'm trying not to be too graphic, but it is disturbing. They were placed in there without embalming. Apparently they were just put in body bags. No embalming, leading to a disturbing stench that attracted scavengers, buzzards flying overhead. He emphasizes the inhumanity of such treatment and calls for a more dignified handling of the deceased. Well, that should be a given, in my opinion. The families affected were not notified, and many still believe that their loved ones were missing. Reed emphasizes that this issue extends beyond race, as both white and black individuals, and in most articles I read, it was black, white, Hispanic, indigenous, Native American. It was across the board. All these individuals were buried in the same manner. The lack of identification and the practice of assigning only numbers to the graves further compounds the anguish of the families involved, understandably. Despite the alarming nature of these revelations, a humane resolution is needed, most definitely. Reed, Crump, and attorney Dennis Week advocate for a federal investigation to uncover the truth behind these unmarked graves. They also advocate for the potential violation of civil rights in cases like Dexter Wade's. In Dexter Wade's case, numerous civil rights were violated. These included failing to notify the family, burying him without permission despite knowing his identity. Reed expresses deep concern about the actions taken by the authorities, considering that apparently there is an ongoing lawsuit involving the police, and I'm assuming, I don't know if it's the Loudoun County Police or the Jackson Police. I think it's the Jackson Police because we'll get into some other details that I found. The families affected are demanding justice and transparency. Obviously, that's what they deserve. All right. So that was that article. Let's see what else. Junior Johnson says, "I'm going to be cremated." Yeah. I've just told my family because we live out here on a, although I don't think it's legal, but we live out here on our land, and I said when I kick the bucket, y'all can just bury me out in the woods, and I'll be fine. Put the little cross out there or something, and I'm good with that. All right, let's see what I wanted to. I gotta hurry. I'm already 44 minutes in. Okay, we'll go to this one next. If I can get, my computer's being slow as usual. How's everybody doing out there? You still with me? Thank you to everybody who's in chat and watching. Thank you to everybody who watched the replay. All right, this comes from the World Socialist website. I've never heard of this website before. I only chose it because it had good compilation of information from NBC News, so I wouldn't have to go back and forth between 20 websites to read some of this information. So it says a horrifying situation is unfolding in Jackson, Mississippi, where 215 bodies were recently discovered in unmarked graves behind a state jail. Now, apparently, this Paupers graveyard was found behind what they call the Loudoun County Penal Farm, whatever that is, and is in Hinds County, close to Jackson, Mississippi. The families of those buried in what is known as the Paupers Field behind the Hinds County Penal Farm were never informed of the deaths of their loved ones, let alone given the chance to retrieve their bodies and pay their respects. The extent and scope of this travesty and utter disregard for human life is still largely being kept under wraps. Well, that's evident, being as, you cannot find hardly any information about this. However, what has been reported thus far is chilling. The grave sites of the victims are identifiable only by a number and a metal rod. The bodies were not embalmed, given coffins, or properly buried. The graves were dug by inmates, and it is likely the burials were carried out by these same inmates. One activist known as Arthur Reed, who has been outspoken on the events, described a morbid scene at the burial ground when visiting, reporting that buzzards were flying overhead, attracted to the disturbing stench that emanates from the improper burials and shallow graves. The shocking revelation was unearthed only due to the persistence of Betterston Wade, who is Dexter Wade's mother, who spent 7 months looking for her child, Dexter Wade, who suddenly went missing in March of 2023. Betterston would not find out the truth about her son until October of 2023. Dexter had been he had been deceased shortly after leaving his mother's home. He was hit by a Jackson police car while crossing a nearby interstate highway. And we'll go into his case and I'll give you the details about what happened there. Police were aware of Dexter's identity, as he was when he was killed. He did have identification on him, and yet still failed to notify the family. Instead, and this is allegedly, the police department let Dexter's body remain unclaimed for months in the county morgue. Betterston repeatedly called the Jackson Police Department to ask the police if they had any information on her son after officially reporting him missing to the police on March 14th, 2023, just days after he went missing. The grieving mother emailed pictures of her son to the police and requested that they show the photo on television. Finding no help from the authorities, she took to social media to appeal to the public to look out for her missing son. Betterston reported to NBC News that the decision to call the police, in full transparency, just to give all sides of the story, Betterston reported to NBC News that the decision to call the police was difficult for her because of her lack of trust in the department. And I believe that she's referring to I don't know if it's the county or the Jackson City Police Department. But apparently, allegedly, her 62-year-old brother had died at the hands of the Jackson police in 2019 when an officer slammed him to the ground. Now, the officer was convicted of manslaughter, but it being appealed, and it's still going through all the processes. So. It was not until August, several months later, when a new investigator took over Dexter's case and finally notified the Wade family of Dexter's death. It took Betterston 2 more months before she could track down her son's body in the Paupers field. And this is something else that just adds insult to injury. And moreover, like the other victims buried in the same Paupers field, it cost the Wade family $250 fee to claim Dexter's body. So like I said, that just adds insult to injury, that they had to pay $250 to claim their loved one's body, although it was not their fault, allegedly. Once again, I have to use allegedly because they did not know where their loved one was, because they had just been dumped behind in this field, in this Paupers graveyard. Let's see what was going on. Yeah, Junior says, my grandma said, roll me up in the sheet and roll me over the hill. She lived in Kentucky. Hey, I can get behind that. Like I said, I'm good being, buried out in the backyard or the pasture, or on the by the creek. I'm good with that. All right. On a Tuesday afternoon in early October, accompanied by a sheriff's deputy and two inmates in jumpsuits, Betterston, her sister, and daughter were taken to plot number 672, where Dexter was buried. Dexter had two daughters, I believe. Now they're teenagers. Since the initial revelation, several more harrowing stories have come to light over these bodies that were buried at Hinds County Penal Farm. So now we're going to take a look into this is Dexter Wade. We're going to take a look at his case because it's just unbelievable. All right. Let's see if I can find the right. Waiting for my computer to get up. Grab a drink. And this comes from NBCnews.com. And I'm not gonna, it's a pretty long article. I'm not gonna read all of it. I'm just gonna give you the, because I gave you a lot of it from most of the basic information in the other article. So 7 months of searching for her lost son brought Betterston Wade to a dirt road leading into the woods, past an empty horse stable and a scrapyard. And this is just describing when she was taken to where Dexter was buried. So we covered that. It wasn't until 172 excruciating days after his disappearance that Betterston learned the truth. Dexter had been killed less than an hour after he'd left her home, struck by a Jackson police car as he crossed a nearby interstate highway. Police had known Dexter's name and hers, but failed to contact her, instead letting his body go unclaimed for months in the county morgue. Now it was early October, and Betterston had finally been told where she could find her son. So it goes through going to where he was buried in this Paupers graveyard. No, Junior, they were not in coffins. From what I understand, at least what has been reported, not by the Jackson County Police or the Hinds, any kind of official law enforcement. It has been reported that they were buried just in, I started to say Ziploc bags, in body bags, just zipped up in body bags and put in shallow graves. No coffins. No coffins, no embalming, nothing that you would do for a proper burial, basically. They just put them in these body bags, dug maybe if they were lucky, a 1 to 2, just enough to throw, a couple of shovelfuls of dirt over them and left them there. That's why I mentioned earlier the buzzards were, people had seen buzzards circling around this field, and it was because of the smell of the decomposing bodies. So no, they were not, from what I understand, allegedly, from what's being reported by people who have been out there and who are now taking these poor souls out of these graves. They were just in body bags, and that's it. But good question. Thank you. All right. me get down to the circumstances of what happened to Dexter when he was lost his life. So some background on him. His mom says that growing up, he was a sweet little boy. He was, excuse me, sharp with computers. He was a leader among classmates. He liked nice clothes. He was a dreamer who hoped to one day run his own business, refurbishing old cars. His mom says that in his teens, he kind of got in with the wrong crowd, began stealing cars, using drugs. Um, she says that his mom, was the single mother of 3 who worked at night. She said that she wasn't always around for Dexter, but she always bailed him out of jail and he always returned home. He and his girlfriend had 2 daughters. Apparently they didn't stay together. He did serve 2 terms in prison, one for attempted auto theft and the other for armed robbery, according to Mississippi Department of Corrections, and he was released in 2017. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. According to his mom, after starting medication, he decreased his illegal drug intake. He stayed at home most of the day, cleaning and taking care of the yard, the things around the house. She said he rarely left the house for more than a day or 2 without calling. He had never showed any signs of wanting to hurt himself. And getting into the night that he passed away, she says he didn't seem like he was in a bad place, but I don't know what happened that particular day. So on March 5th, which is the day that he was killed, Betterston, which is his mom, who was a retired Nissan line technician, she also worked part-time as a home health aide, returned home and found one of her windows broken. She and Dexter got into an argument about it, and around 7:30 p.m. he left with a friend. She said days passed without a word. On March 14th, she called the Jackson Police Department to report him missing. And we went over earlier how the decision to call the police was difficult for her because of alleged incident with her brother and the Jackson Police Department. An investigator, she did end up eventually calling. An investigator came to her house, took a statement. She emailed the investigator a picture of Dexter. He left a card with a case number on it with her. 2 days later, she emailed a different investigator another photo of Dexter. The original investigator filed an incident report that misspelled Dexter's name as Dester, Dester. Betterston says she kept in regular touch with police, asking for updates, requesting that they put his picture on TV. She did her own searches. She checked out abandoned homes, drove around the neighborhood, asking if anyone had seen Dexter. And she apparently never found this friend who he left the home with. All right, let's get down to each time she called the police told her that they had no information, but apparently it turned out that the Jackson Police Department had the answers all along. Allegedly. Had to put in allegedly. So, apparently reporters got in touch with the Jackson Police Department. They did not respond to detailed questions. They have not commented or explained how and why it handled Dexter's death. After this article that I'm reading from was published, a spokesperson for Jackson Mayor, I'm going to butcher this name, Shockway Antar Lumumba, emailed a statement to Embassy News offering, quote, our sincerest prayers and condolences to Dexter's family. The spokesperson, Melissa Faith Payne, added in an interview that police did not intentionally harm Dexter or his family. She said there was miscommunication. That's an understatement. But there was no malicious intent anywhere in this whole situation. So the account that I'm going to give you about what happened to Dexter says this account has been pieced together with interviews with Dexter's family, coroner's investigator, along with court records and documents provided in response to a public records request, a crash report, incident reports, and coroner's office records, and also shared personal notes, emails, Dexter's death certificate, a coroner's report, and case information cards that were provided to Dexter's mother by the police. So, with all that being said, Lone Pony says, didn't know all of this. It's even worse than I thought. Oh yeah, it like I said, hold on to your put your seatbelt on. It's just getting started. But I wanted to focus on. I have two other stories of two other that have been identified that we're going to touch on. But Dexter's case, I found the most details on, and is the most disturbing. In my opinion. So those materials show that just before 8 p.m. on March 5th, Dexter was walking across Interstate 55, which is a 6-lane highway. And you can see on the right of the slide that's where Dexter's home was, up in the top left, and then down in the bottom right where there, I believe, is a red X, is where he was hit by this police cruiser. So March 5th, Dexter was walking across Interstate 55, a 6-lane highway, when a Jackson police SUV driven by an off-duty corporal struck him in the southbound lanes. The corporal, who alerted police to the collision, was not injured. He was not suspected of being under the influence of drugs or alcohol, but he was not given any field sobriety test, nor was he cited for any traffic violations, and death was ruled accidental, which it probably very well was accidental. Who know? I mean, walking across a 6-lane highway was, needless to say, is very dangerous. It was, what did I say, at 7:30 or 8:30, so it was probably dark. Why Dexter was walking across the freeway, I have not come across that information. But this is not the main. I just want to give you this information to show how he ended up in this pauper's grave, how he was, how he died. Dexter suffered severe injuries, including to his head. A toxicology report later noted that Dexter did have drugs in his system. An investigation from the Hinds County Coroner's Office, an investigator from the Hinds County Coroner's Office responded to the scene. He did not find now, according to him, he did not find identification such as a driver's license or a state ID card on Dexter while examining him, but he did find a bottle of prescription medication in Dexter's pocket with Dexter's name on it. And like I said, all they would have had to do was they had his name. He did have a criminal history, so all they would have had to do, and maybe they did, I don't know, put his name in the system, and he would have come up in the system because he had a criminal history, and they could have notified his family. But apparently that's not what happened. Allegedly, that's not what happened. So 3 days later, on March 8th, the investigator, LeGrand Elliott, and he seems to be the one semi or good guy in this whole thing that I found. if what he's saying is true and what he put in his notes is true. 3 days later, on March 8th, LeGrand Elliott, who was the investigator for the coroner's office, contacted the medical facility that had provided the prescription that he had found in the pocket. He received Betterston's name, which is Dexter's mother. He said that he called the number listed for Betterston in the facility's records. He left a voicemail but got no response. Betterston confirmed that the number that Elliott said he called was correct, but she doesn't remember receiving a call from him, and she was not able to access her Boost mobile phone records to check. So we kind of have a he said, she said. So I'm doing my best to give both sides of the story, to be fair. Elliott, who is the investigator, confirmed Dexter's identification on March 9th when the state crime lab said his fingerprints matched those that it had on file for him, because once again, he did have a criminal record. Very easy to find him, according to his notes. Elliott said in an interview that he passed what he'd found, a phone number and an address, to the Jackson Police Department's Accident Investigation Squad so that they could notify Betterston and Dexter's family of Dexter's death. Now, this is where it gets sketchy, in my opinion. According to Elliott, the investigator for the coroner's office, who passed this information to the Jackson Police Department, he says, once we get that information, I turn it over to the police because it is their jurisdiction so that they can do the proper death notification. And another infuriating thing about this case is apparently, and I thought that this was standard operating procedure, that you have some kind of death notification policy, but apparently the Jackson Police Department, up until a month ago, did not have any kind of official death notification policy. But we will get into that. It's just unbelievable. Yes, Michelle says, poor mama. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also found, I don't think I was going to include it in the slides, I found a picture of him, of Dexter with his grandma. Just heartbreaking. This whole thing is just heartbreaking, this whole situation. And I just don't understand how it has not got more attention. So that's why I wanted to do this tonight, to do just a little small part on my little channel to try to bring more attention to this. Okay, so Betterston, meanwhile, turned to Facebook, where she posted pictures of Dexter with her phone number, pleading for him or anyone who may have seen him to call her. On March 15th, the day after Betterston reported Dexter missing, Elliott followed up with Jackson Police for updates, and they told him no kin has been located as of yet. And this is according to his notes, his case notes. Elliott made another follow-up call on March 30th and was told that there was nothing new once again. The following day, the coroner's office asked the Hinds County Board of Supervisors for approval to bury Dexter's remains in the Paupers field at the Hinds County Penal Farm. As that request was being filed, Betterston posted another photo of Dexter on Facebook, saying, has anyone seen my son? If you have, please call me immediately. The Board of Supervisors approved the coroner's burial request on April 3rd. 4 days later, Elliott called Jackson Police again, and they told him, once again, no new updates. And this is according to his case notes. On May 7th, Betterston posted on Facebook, Dexter, if you're out there, your kids miss you, your family misses you, we love you, we always love you, please come home. 2 days after that, Elliott called the police again for an update and was told there was no new information. He tried one last time in June, got the same response, no information. We haven't been able to find next of kin, so on and so forth. On July 14th, with no one claiming Dexter's body, the county buried him in a field at its Pendle farm, among other unclaimed bodies. Bedderston was still searching. Once again, she posted, Dexter, your kids and your family miss you. She wrote on Facebook on July 16th, you don't have to come home. Just let us know you're all right. We love you. Through the rest of July, Bedderston said she called missing persons investigators, got no news. The lead investigator told her that he was retiring at the end of the month, and a new investigator called her August 13th, saying that she was taking over the case. Less than 2 weeks later, on August 24th, the new investigator called to tell her she had found Dexter and that an officer would come to see her in person. And Bedderston says, when she said that, I knew he was deceased. The officer, which was a member of the accident investigation unit, met with Bedderston at her mother's house, and Bedderston said he told her that Dexter had been hit by a police cruiser while trying to cross the highway. He told her that he'd known Dexter's name, or Bedderston found Elliot, which was the coroner's office investigator, like I said, the one semi-good guy. He told her that he had known Dexter's name since the day that Dexter passed away, and he had passed this information to the Jackson Police Department. And after that, he said, I did what I was supposed to do, and apparently Jackson Police Department didn't take the time to do what they were supposed to do, allegedly. All right. I think that was the rest is just claiming his body, having to pay the $250 fee to claim his body. That's just, like I said earlier, insult to injury. All right, so that is the Dexter Wade. Unbelievable. Just the whole situation is just unbelievable and mind-blowing, but his case in particular I found was just so unbelievable, so sad, and just so disturbing, that they knew who he was, or at least this investigator Elliot from the coroner's office. He did according to him, he did his job, and he did his investigation and identified Dexter, passed it on to the Jackson Police Department, who technically it was their jurisdiction. They were the one who were supposed to do the death notification. He gave them the phone number, address, and who knows, for whatever reason, they never, they claimed that they made several phone calls and couldn't get a hold of the family. But to me, something, this is just my opinion, to me, something's rotten in Denmark. Lone Pony says, allegedly, this is worst case corruption imaginable. Allegedly, so sad. Yeah, there's I'm telling you, something's going on. Something is going on, because there have been and I've got, I know we're hour 14 in, but just got a couple more things I want to read about a couple more cases. Apparently, obviously, the law enforcement, the Jackson Police Department has not made they've made a couple of their standard blah, blah, blah statements, but nothing nothing of value, in my opinion. All right. So next, all right, let me go to, I promise we're almost done. Hang in there with me, I promise. Trust me, this case is just, I could spend hours talking about this, but, and I'll probably will do either another live or a follow-up video on this, because I'm definitely going to look into it further and keep up to date on it if any other information is released. Oh, goodness, let me find the, get down to the, that's one I want to go to. This is one of the other victims. Let me get down to where. This is on the slide here, Mario Terrell Moore. This is another, I keep wanting to say victims because they're victims, people that have been identified that came out of this Paupers graveyard. So, Marquita Moore was notified of the death of her older brother, Mario Terrell Moore, 40, from an online article revealing cases, and this was what I was talking about earlier, the CNN video I watched, revealing cases of 24 homicide victims in which the Jackson police had failed to notify the public or the families. And Moore's brother on the screen here was the second name on this list. All 24 victims were from 1 year. So this was 1 year's worth, 20 plus victims. They were buried in this pauper's graveyard, and their families, even though the victims were identified, their next of kin was never notified. So Marquita Moore, which was the victim's sister, sister, read the news of her brother's death on October 10th. However, the article reported that Mario had been killed on February 2nd, over 8 months earlier. NBC News reports that upon learning of the tragedy, Marquita shuddered and cried out, "This is my brother. Somebody killed my brother." Can you imagine reading in a news report? All this time, she and her family had thought that he was just missing. They had been looking for him. And it turned out that he had been the victim of a homicide. So after discovering the truth, Marquita immediately went to the Jackson Police Department's headquarters to find out more information, but was told that no one was available to talk to her. My head is about to explode. Just, my brain hurts, my heart hurts. Just the more I read it. Okay, so Marquita would later learn that Mario had a trigger warning, had been bludgeoned to death, wrapped in a tarp, and left on the street. For months, his body had lain in the Hinds County morgue unclaimed. Then, on July 14th, inmates at the county penal farm had buried his remains in the Paupers field. Like the dozens of other families, the news has wrecked the Moore family. Marquita says, what are you hiding? Talking about the police. Why can't you just come and tell somebody that their child is gone? And apparently Mario was buried the same day and in the same place as Dexter Wade. So, yet another, he was definitely identified. This doesn't even say, of course, this is just a compilation of NBC News reports. Doesn't even say if there was even any effort made to notify the family, or if they just, like I said, his remains were in the Hinds County morgue for months before he was finally dumped in this makeshift graveyard. So disturbing, so sad. Okay, this, I can get the slide to go. This is David Hankins, another identified person that they have that was buried in this graveyard. On December 4th, the family of Jonathan David Hankins, 39, learned of his death from news outlets. Hankins was first reported missing in June of 2022, nearly a year before the first two cases that we talked about, Dexter Wade and Mario Moore, suggesting that the practice of burying victims in this pauper field has been going on for years. Well, yeah, if there are 215 at least people that they know of as of June or January 10th, 2023, who knows how long this has been going on. Jonathan Hankins was discovered deceased by the authorities just days after he went missing on May 23rd, 2022 in a hotel room in Jackson. The death is widely believed to have been due to an overdose. Investigators were able to verify his identity with no problem or delay. However, like the other cases, the Jackson Police Department did not inform the family, and the county inmates were made to bury his body alongside the others in the Paupers field graveyard, and Jonathan's grave was plot number 645. So here, out of 215, I've just given you three already that very easily identifiable. They were identified. Their families were never, next of kin families were never identified, and they were just thrown as one article I read, one of the family members said they were just thrown away like they were trash. I just cannot get over this. The Hankins story echoes the first two. For over a year, Jonathan's mother, Gretchen, contacted the sheriff's office every few weeks asking for any news. She was told time and time again that they had no information, even though he had been easily and immediately identified. Speaking with NBC News, Gretchen Hankins says, I want people to know that somebody is not doing their job and making folks go through what I've been through. They can't even do the job of notifying a deceased person's next of kin. They probably just thought another drug addict gone. And that was in quotes. The Paupersfield graveyard revelation has made headlines on and off again since the first major case was unveiled last fall. However, the news coverage is not nearly proportional to the scale of the crime, nor to the level of public outrage, obviously, in my opinion. Moreover, there are countless pressing questions that must be answered, including the identity of the remaining bodies. Exactly. 215 that they know of as of this story was from I believe a couple of days yesterday. This article came out. 200 and how long, and especially since they were not embalmed, they were just stuck in body bags in shallow graves. Not to be too graphic or morbid, but being with no embalming and buried in shallow graves and in conditions, there's going to be and if Mr. Steve was here, he could attest to this or explain it. They're going to be very decomposed depending on how long they've been out there. Who knows if how long it's going to take to identify them, and even if they're going to be even able to identify some of them, because some of them they'll probably have to go or just skeletal. So unless you have teeth, identify them using the dental records or any kind of marks or anything they may have had, surgeries, metal plates, or some of these people may not ever be identified, and it just breaks my heart, and it just confounds me. It just, like I said, it makes my brain hurt and my heart hurt. Exactly. Lone Pony says it makes no freaking sense. No, it doesn't. I do not understand. Oh goodness. All right. Let's see if I was finished with this. Let's see. Says predictably there appears to be very little effort from the establishment to carry out a formal investigation, and critical details are still being kept from the public. Obviously. Yeah. So now, because we're not doing too bad. We're only or 25 in. So throw anybody watching chat, throw your comments in there. Let me know what you think about this. Just like I said, be respectful. And let me make the point right now. I am by no means anti-law enforcement. I have the utmost respect for all first responders, police, EMS, fire, military, anybody. But yeah, something is going on in Jackson with the Jackson, Mississippi Police Department. Or it may not be the whole department, but an individual or individuals, whoever is responsible for, and I'm going to read you this. I told you that until a month ago, allegedly there was no a formal policy for death notifications for the Jackson Police Department. So that's the next article I'm going to read to you. All right, so let me find it. Yes, Lone Pony says, I agree. I love law enforcement. So thankful for them. It just seems like something is way off. Yes, something is very off. Like I said earlier, something's rotten in Denmark. Thank you, Junior. Junior says good night. Southern Gal and everyone, very sad case. Yes, it is. Thank you for being here and participating. Love you so much. Love all you guys who come in and participate. Thank you so much for your comments and your participation. And Junior, I'm going to get to D. Warner's case soon. I promise. I was going to do it Friday, but some developments have come up in the Amir Ellis case from here in Arkansas, and I just want to do a recap of his case because they are having his celebration of life service Saturday. So I will just want to recap his case but D. Warner case will be next. I promise you, Junior. I know you're going to get tired of me saying that, but I promise it will be next. I've already started working it up, but like I said, these things came up with Amir Ellis, and it's an Arkansas case, and it's one that's been I've followed from the beginning, dear to my heart. So I just want to get everybody caught up on that case. But I will get to Dean Warner. But thank you, Junior. Good night. I hope you have a good night. And for the rest of you that are here, I promise we're almost done. But I do want to read this. Oh, let's see. About their Jackson PD's next of kin notification policy. And this comes from, once again, NBC News, and it is from, let's see when it's from, November 29th of 2023. It says Jackson, Mississippi adopts next of kin notification policy after people were buried without families knowing. And this is obviously in relation to these 215 souls that were just chunked out in the field. Death notification policies are standard for police departments, but Jackson didn't have one until this month. And this was, like I said, from November 2023. Unbelievable. So police in Jackson, Mississippi have adopted a policy outlining how officers notify families when a loved one has passed away. These guidelines are common in American law enforcement, but Jackson did not have a policy until recently, after a local mother who was Dexter Wade's mother, shared the story of her son getting run over by a police car and being buried in a pauper's grave without her knowing. My question is, how is it not standard operating procedure to have a death notification policy? I thought that was, once again, I'd love to have some former law enforcement or somebody who knows this. Is this not, how can this not be that you don't, that this is not standard operating procedure, that you have a policy in place about when the notifications are given, how they're given, who gives them. I just don't understand. But anyway, um, Police Chief Joseph Wade announced the new policy on November 13th of last year, of 2023, following weeks of public outrage over the death of Dexter Wade, 37, whose mother searched for him for months before learning that he had already been buried. It says the two Wade families obviously are not related. The department provided a copy of the new next of kin notification policy to NBC News in response to a public records request. So somebody had to do a FOIA request to get this information. At the time of the announcement, Chief Wade did not mention the Dexter Wade case. Wonder why. But suggested that the department had been out of step with standard practice. You think? This just blows my mind. To me, this is just lip service, blah, blah, blah. You would think that we would, Chief Wade says, you would think that we would have a death notification policy, but we did not. Really? Chief Wade said at a news briefing with Jackson Mayor, once again, I'm going to butcher the name, Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Chief Wade declined through a city spokesperson to comment further. The spokesperson, Melissa Faith Payne, said in a statement that the new policy was enacted to ensure that police contact next of kin in cases handled by the department. But other than that, she did not elaborate. Once again, how could this have not already been in effect? Part of policy. The Jackson Police Department and the Hinds County Coroner's Office have been widely faulted for their failures to reach Dexter Wade's family in the months after the father of two was struck and killed by an off-duty officer while crossing a 6-lane highway on March 5th. His mother, Betterston Wade, reported him missing a few days later, but investigators did not tell her what happened to him until August 24th. By then, he'd already been buried in a pauper's grave on the grounds of the Hinds County Penal Farm. In another case, authorities, and we've talked about these cases, failed to tell the family of Mario Moore, 40, that he had been, he had died in February. Have to be careful with words I use. His relatives eventually found out about the death after reading an October 9th local news article that revealed Jackson police had failed to notify the public about dozens of homicides that year. By then, Moore had also been buried in the Paupers graveyard. Mississippi law requires coroners to, quote, make reasonable efforts to notify the family of someone who has passed away. And if their body goes unclaimed for more than 5 days, county authorities can bury it. The Hinds County Coroner's Office, which took possession of Wade and Moore's bodies after their deaths, has said it works closely with police on death notifications and relies on officers to perform them in cases in which people have passed away. In his November 13 remarks, Chief Wade said that despite what state law says about the coroner's responsibilities on death notifications, quote, we want to make sure that we are giving the best police service to our citizens, end quote. In both Dexter Wade and Mario Moore's deaths, the coroner's office and the Jackson Police Department said they made efforts to contact next of kin, including via phone, but they didn't reach anyone. In Wade's case, the Jackson's mayor has blamed a miscommunication. Unbelievable. Jackson's new policy requires officers to make, quote, every effort to quickly locate and notify the next of kin of someone who has passed away in a case handled by the police department. It instructs officers to use, quote, all available resources to find a victim's family. The document also says officers should make a notification in person at a family member's home and not by phone. That's usually the way it's done, or it's the way it should be done. It's the way I've always seen it done in other cases, or just from watching shows like the First 48 and shows like that. The police says officers should use, quote, extreme tact and, quote, display a demeanor of understanding and sympathy and express a desire to assist. Policies on death notification are customary for modern, well-run police departments and coroner's officers, experts say. That should be a given, in my opinion. It's pretty standard stuff that departments have a policy, said Thomas. I can't pronounce his last name. I'll just call him Thomas. He is a former police chief in Plymouth Township, Michigan, and a former chief of detectives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who now consults for law enforcement agencies. Not having a policy increases the risk of botched notifications, which can damage a department's credibility. Quote, he says, there's a moral obligation besides the procedural obligation to let someone know their loved ones were killed or either by natural or foul play or found deceased, he said. Chris Burbank, who is a former police chief in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a consultant for the Center for Policing Equity, said it was, quote, unheard of for a police department to go without a death notification policy because officers are commonly called upon to conduct notifications. He says, this is like a policy about wearing seatbelts. Everybody's got them, Burbank said. If you don't, you've got to ask the question, what were you thinking? Exactly. This police chief and Burbank both reviewed Jackson's new notification policy and said it appeared to bring the city up to modern standards. The notification process is fairly representative of policies across the country, Burbank said. Does anybody find that just, oh my goodness. Once again, how can it not be standard operating procedure, like they said, to have a death notification policy in place? I don't understand. All right, let's see what we got. Lone Pony, hopefully they are investigating all missing persons from that area. Hopefully, can't imagine the record keeping will be of any help. Exactly. Like I said, they may not ever be able, unfortunately, to identify all of these 215 or more. There could be more, who knows? Yeah. So there are families out there who think that their loved ones are just missing, and they could be one of the ones, the 215 that are just thrown out here in this makeshift graveyard. It's just so sad and mind-blowing. I just don't understand it. Not at all. And I do not understand why this case is not, or this story has not got more attention. Hopefully, so anybody watching in chat, watching the replay, please, if you don't do anything else, share this video so we can get this more awareness to this situation that's going on. All right, guys. At least one person's here. I think that's all I have. But like I said, I thought, obviously, this case or this situation, the story is so sad, so heartbreaking. There does need, in my opinion, does need to be an investigation. into what's going on, and more people need to be made aware of the story. So once again, Lone Pony, once again, thank you. Lone Pony says, thank you again. You've done an awesome job researching and presenting this case. Thank you. Thank you, Lone Pony, for bringing this to my attention. I was one of the ones who had never heard of this until I got your email last night. So thank you, dear. Thank you, thank you, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I will definitely keep my eye on it. I'm going to do more research on it and look for any updates, any more stories of if they've identified any of the other people remains. So I will definitely be doing maybe more lives, or at least more video updates if I find anything else out after doing some more research. All right, guys, I've babbled long enough, so I'm going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody who was here. Most definitely Lone Pony, Junior Johnson, Michelle C. Let's go back to the comments. Make sure I don't miss anybody. Thank you, everybody who was here, who was lurking. I understand lurkers. Thank you, everybody who watched and participated in the chat. Thank you, everybody who watched in replay. I will be back either Friday or Saturday with a live stream for our case of the week. Like I said, I'm going to recap, do a case breakdown of the Amir Ellis case. But I will definitely let you know. I'll schedule the live as soon as I can to give y'all plenty of notice. So until then, thank you once again, everybody, for watching. Anybody new here watching replay, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Like, share, comment. Helps out small channels like mine reach more people to get these stories like this out to more people. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Be careful out there. Take care of each other. Thanks. Bye-bye.